Hello gamers, it's SoftKitty99 and today we're in Parkitect. I've used the play function in Parkitect and I've chosen the flat terrain small, and I've turned off all of the settings so that we've got unlimited funds and can build whatever we want, and I've used this to build a Christmas street market. So I hope that you enjoy this and that it helps you to start thinking a little bit more outside the box, because this is definitely not a traditional fun fair or amusement park. What I've actually built is a Christmas market area with a few rides as attractions to just make it a little bit more exciting and to give people more things to do. A lot of street markets are quite common in Christmas periods now, especially around the sort of Bavarian German Christmas idea or theme of little street stalls where you can bring goods, craft goods, made goods, Christmas ornaments, scarves, all sorts of things. You can sell food, you can sell sweets, you can do all sorts of things on these little markets that you can find in many big capital cities or big towns throughout the country these days. And I was inspired by that to build something in Parkitect. So this is what I've come up with, and I really hope that you enjoy it. So as you can see, what I've done is I've made a big open square, or a big like plaza area that you'll find in a lot of cities, and with a big fountain in the middle. I love the fact that you can now make the fountains bigger, so I can make the fountain a little bit bigger in the centre here. And then I've just built everything in the square, so I've added my big Christmas market into the square. There you can see my guys hauling the goods to all the stalls. So of course the guests are not going to be terribly happy because the guys are hauling right through the middle of them, but that's just a feature of Parkitect. But we can just build and do what we want. So I've added a big fountain in the middle, and I've added these little bouncing water jets into the fountain just for an added little bit of fun, and added seating all the way around here with bins and everything. And then off this very centre of the square I've added a few rides. So close to where I live, there usually has this big street market, and it's split into more than one section. So I've kind of used ideas from all the sections and just put them all together. I think my robot's stuck. Let's move him. There you go, happy robot. So what they usually have is one section where there's a skating rink. So here I've got a little skating rink, so I've just used the terrain paint and the ice one to build the little skating rink, a bit like I did on the car park fun fair as well, where I added the ice skating rink. The ice skating rink in the old one was a lot bigger. This one's a lot more compact because we're adding everything into this big square. And the one close to where I am, they often have, right next to the skating rink, they often have a Ferris wheel. And then they have stalls coming from, so the Ferris wheel's usually sort of here next to that, and then there's through the streets, there's like a narrowy streets with just like double row of little stalls along there that then leads you into like a big open area where we have a big market, and there's usually something like a carousel somewhere in this big market area, maybe an extra ride or two here and there, but usually quite often there's only a carousel. And then lots and lots of stalls for the market to sell goods for Christmas. And so that's kind of what inspired me with this build here. But I've done everything in one square. There's no stalls and things leading off into other areas of the town. Everything's just centralised here in my build. So just zoom out so you can see the whole thing again. And then we'll go in for some more details. Around the edge of the square I've put in lots and lots of houses. I'm quite pleased with this. You could have made it bigger and more, and you can see I've terrain painted the so just so you can see the side. This is the small one, so you can see that there's an awful lot of space left that I haven't used. So I've just terrain painted with snow the area that I wanted to build on. So here's the entrance where people come in. Here's the goods in department here. So I've just left the short run down here for the staff to get in. And let me explain a little bit about what I've done and show you in a bit more detail the areas. So here's the goods in where the staff pick up the goods to deliver to the stalls. Here's a staff room that I've put in a very simple little corrugated iron building. I've kind of covered it up a little bit with the corrugated and then the hedge, a few trees just to hide the staff areas, and then the staff come out through here and then they just walk into the square themselves, and the visitors all come in here, got somewhere to sit. So we've kind of got walkway plaza, and then this grey concrete I imagine is the road which runs all the way around the centre square and then off into the distance where the houses and things are. But to stop the people walking all the way along the road around the square, what I've done is I've added the curb, so they can only go across where the path is, here where the curb is, to stop them wandering all across the road. So imagine that this is a pedestrian crossing or a stoplight for the people to get across the road to the fair and market area. And then you run the curb all the way around the edge of the square so that the people don't walk on the road, because if you don't put the curb in, they'll just walk across the road all the time, which is very, very dangerous, people. And you don't just walk across the road, you always have to stop, look and listen if there's any kids watching. Though to be honest, lots of adults forget to do that sometimes as well. So always be careful crossing roads, whatever age you are. So put the curb in so that you can corral your people to stay where you want them to be. Then around the edge I've added a load of buildings to, and there you see branches off of the side streets going down here. So I've built loads of beautiful buildings, and you're saying, oh gosh Kitty, you spent ages doing that. What I've actually done is I've built 4 buildings. So the first building is a little L-shaped sort of aqua blue and green house. So it's a little L-shaped building. Look. Let me show you the back. So it stops here, look. And then I've saved it as blueprint, so I've put it down once here and once here. And then the second building is this narrow 1 block wide 3-storey high brown building there, and let's rotate around to the front. So front and back are identical on that particular building, with a very tall high slope of roof. And then the next building is 2 here where you can see this gap. Actually, let me find one that's not okay, let's not worry about that. Right, you see it stops here and here, so we've actually got 1, 2, 3 buildings, because where the roof is it can make you see it a little bit easier. So the front of the building has a door here and 2 windows above it and 3 here, and then the back of the building has 6 windows. So I've rotated the building, you see, so you've got the front here and the back here and then the front again here. See what I mean? That's a front and that's a back. So here, oh, here's the single one here, look, on its own here. So the front of the house looks like this, and the back of the house looks like this, and then it's next to a brown roof, and then it's got this beautiful little roof. I've used that dome shape on the top of it here, look. And then the final one of my 4 buildings is this big white building. At first I envisaged this as being on the corner plots, but it didn't really work terribly well on the corner plots, so that didn't quite work out. And the textures on these cornices, these borders, these are actually the same colour, but because these are shaped slightly differently, the textures don't quite meet up and match. There's this little overlap that doesn't quite work, and then the colour doesn't quite match up. So I found that kind of odd, because they were all the same. But I've used the red brick like this, but I've turned it into white and grey instead, you see, so that it looks very, very different. But then I've made so we've got a rectangle at the front here, look, and then I've added a slanted shape piece around the back, and use one of those sectioned pieces here. So I've used this in different orientations in different places, so that it looks very different in different places. You see, you've got a big double door in this side, And then on this side here I've got another door here. So I've used just 4 buildings, made blueprints of all 4 of them, and then just reutilised them over and over in different places. So there's the blue one on its own again there, you see, and then another white one here. And that's how I've built up the streets around my square. So it makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker to just use the blueprints to mass produce lots and lots of little houses to make these rows, and because you put them in different locations and in different patterns, it actually makes it look quite different. And with this one, with having the front and the back different, you can make it look like it's a much wider house. See, it's the same house, but I've made like 2 double ones and then a single one. So you can make rows and rows of the same house like that, or you can rotate them around, like so, front, back, front. Just makes things different, mix up the patterns, and make things just look a little bit different wherever you go. And then I've added railings around for the divisions of where every house is, and added a few trees into some of the gardens. Because it's winter, most of your plants are going to be down underground. You're not going to have many out, just the trees. I could have made some of the trees more white, but I just like the splash of colour. I'd made some of the trees paler and whiter to make them look like they were snowed on in the Fun Fair on the car park build, so you can have a look at that so you can see something a little bit different. And then I made another small blueprint on the, if I can zoom in, when we were on the Fun Fair in the car park, I made this little blueprint of these snowmen on a plinth. So they've got candles, there's 3 snowmen, 2 with hats, 1 without, and then on the back you see there's a little treasure chest. So I made that as a blueprint on the one in a car park, and here I've put it into a 2x2 square, used the little blueprint, and then around it I've just used little shapes in different colours to mimic presents around these little sculptures. And in every 2x2 segment where I put the snowmen, I've added different shapes and different colour shapes in different orders, so that wherever this is in the park, it's a little bit different for everyone. So I've put 4 of them in. There's the second one, you see it's a little bit different. And I've put 4 of those in the 4 corners. So if we zoom out, you can see 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. And then behind it you can see we've got some little tree things. In fact, I've lost one of the trees off this build, but I made a little blueprint of these little garden areas as well. So you see there's 4 of those right next to the little snowmen, and these are all identical as well, or at least they were supposed to be. And then when I've been placing some things down, I've actually lost a couple of these trees. So let's look at one of the ones which is the full blueprint of what I made as a little, again there's a little blueprint in here. So if we look at the blueprints, we go down to the, yeah, you can see, look, I've got my little bluey greenhouse, my little red one, my little brown one, my snowmen, my white house, and then the little planter that I've made here. So you save the blueprint, and then it saves you having to make the same thing 4 or 5 times. You can just plop the little blueprint down, and it saves you a lot of time, and you keep getting the same thing over and over. So we've got 2 little trees, one of those little swirly bushes, a couple of little flat bushes, and a few of these little tiny shrubs. So there's one other little shrub there. So use that little garden thing in 4 corners, use the little snowman in 4 corners, added a few different coloured shapes to each one so that there's a bit of variety between them. And these are right next to the rides in the 4 corners. And once we've added these patterns down, then we look at the space that we've got at the sides, and then we've added a load of stalls. I've made 3 different styles of stalls, again as blueprints, so I can reuse them. So the back of the stall here has got 2 little windows. So this section of the stall is going to be where the vendors are and all the goods that they're trying to sell are, and then the front is where the customers can come in, stay out of the rain, stand, talk to the vendors, have a look at their goods and see what you want to buy. So we've got this cut out section with little pillars looked as supports. See that again. Don't forget to add lighting and bins and seating around as well. And I've also added some of the lanterns across the front of the stalls as well. So you can see that this part's open with just little pillars for support for the roof, and that's the first style. And then if I drop the scenery, you can see at the back we've got the stall. Of course I can't put goods like scarves and ornaments and stuff in this particular game because we've got to stick with the things that we've got, but here I've got a double burger stall, so each stall's got different types of stuff being sold in it. So we've got double burgers here, double donuts here, double candy floss here, and then we've got some different style stalls. So we've got single ones, so I've got ice cream there, I've got seating here next to the ice rink. I've got seating so that the people can sit in order to put on their ice skates to be able to come ice skating. So here's one of the single buildings, so you can see that they've got the window cutouts on 3 sides and then an open door on the other. So if you put a stall in like we've got here, the customers come to where the door is at the front to buy the goods. And here I've added benches inside this one so that it makes a little hut for people to sit out of the rain, and specifically because it's next to the ice skating rink, this is kind of where you would sit to put your skates on to jump onto the ice skating rink. And then I've got one more type of stall. This is the smaller double stall without the veranda for the customers to stand under. This is kind of like a double one of these. It's got 2 open doors at the front. I've added some of the lanterns across the front. If you hide the scenery, you can see it's just got space for the vendor stalls inside. There's nowhere to keep the customers out of the rain on these stalls. So depending on what the vendor wants, they can hire one of these big fancy stalls where the customers can stay dry, or they can hire the slightly smaller stall where there's no safety for the customers, or they can hire the tiny stall. So imagine this as like a 3-tier cost system for the vendor. If you've got more money and you want a big fancy stall, you go for one of these. If you want a big stall but you don't want to spend quite that much money, you go for one of these. If you want the cheapest budget version because you're not sure how well your goods will sell, or if you think it's a more specialist market, you go for one of the small stands. And I've had them in slightly different colours, you see, look, to vary the colours. This is the lightest wood, this is the mid-tone wood, and this is the darker wood, but they've all got the green and red roofs on them for the Christmas sort of feel. And that is the 3 stalls that I've built. So this one's got windows in the 2 sides and a wood back. This one's got a wood back, and although it has got windows, so these are the ones that you would adhere to the front rather than being cutouts. But I just wanted things to be slightly different in the 3 builds, and that's the final build. So that's what I came up with, and I've added the lights across in various places just for that little bit of colour to give the thing a little bit of pop. And then I've arranged the different stalls in different ways. So I've got a cash machine here, got medical, got the information, and then we've got all sorts of food and things as you go around. If I drop the scenery, you can see we've got all the different types of vendors all the way around. So I've tried to make every single one different as we go around the place. I've also got a vending machine in one. I've got a toilet here, and I've also got another toilet over here right near the centre. So if we zoom out here, so there's a toilet here and there's a toilet here. So we've got a carousel, a twister, a Ferris wheel and dodgems, and the vast majority of it is different market stalls for our Christmas market. And then I've built, very, very proud of my square with all my buildings around it. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. From Soft Kitty 99, goodbye and happy Happy gaming!